Hey, what's up, guys? I don't know what it is with Square Enix. I've always told you guys that I have like a love-hate relationship with this studio, with this company, man. Because like I said, on one end, they created some of the most memorable games of me growing up, you know, from my childhood up into adulthood. And I just love every aspect of them. And then on the other hand, they just make some of the worst business decisions ever, or they just have this mindset that I'm like, what are you guys are doing here? So the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because we finally get an idea of what's going on in Square Enix's head and their approach of how they make their current games. And during the interview, we have the director himself say that they develop their games with the global audience in mind. And that is definitely a bad thing in my personal opinion, because the reason why I love Square Enix is the fact is that it's a Japanese studio. It's Japanese at heart. It's Japanese just baked into who they are as a studio. And I think what's going on is when it comes to Japanese studios nowadays is them trying to cater to a global audience and trying to cast that net out there and try to grab as many people as possible. Now I know there's companies like Capcom who has been doing pretty well at it, and you can check that video out as well. And Bandai Namco haven't been doing too bad at that as well, throwing that net out there and trying to grab as many as possible. And of course, there's still a division where people argue that still, you know, Capcom still isn't the Capcom that I grew up with, or Bandai Namco isn't the Bandai Namco that I grew up with. But they found a middle ground to be able to capture as many of the audience as possible. But Square Enix, time and time again, has failed at it. So before we even dive into this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button, the notification bell for more gaming content here on this channel. So we're going to dive into it from Bounding in the Comics. It says Final Fantasy VII director says Japanese devs now create with a global audience mind from the very start. Confirms games subjected to thorough ethical reviews, oh my god, tailored to different regions. Now I understand this. You have to understand, these ethic reviews has always been around, because you have to also understand that when it comes to releasing the game in like different countries, different regions, you still have to abide by, you know, that culture and their rules that they have established, because you still don't want to offend that culture. This is the reason why when it comes to like those Middle Eastern countries where you ban games like Final Fantasy 16 or any other games that may have LGBTQ elements in it, because they have to respect the laws of that land and that culture of like that. The reason why we have LGBTQ stuff and, you know, a lot of other stuff that many people don't like in our games is because the US is more open to that stuff. And you can see our rules, you can see our politics and stuff that have their arms open for LGBTQ things. So that's why you will see those things more often in our games, is because our society is more tolerant towards it and everything. So you also got to keep that in mind. So as we said before, it says that according to Final Fantasy VII Rebirth director Naoki Hamaguchi, the evolution of video games from a niche hobby into a worldwide industry has resulted in Japanese developers shifting their design priorities away from sensibilities of their local market and towards those of the larger global market or audience. And that's another thing I wanted to say too. See, the reason why I love Japanese studios, especially back in the day, their games, they created for their audience first and foremost. It's always about their country first, their people. And we are like the afterthought, meaning that if we like what they developed, like what they released, we'll play it, you know. And it proved time and time again. This is why people love Square Enix or Squaresoft back in the day, because it was Japanese first. And if you like the game, you're going to play the game. You're going to support the game. And this is why Final Fantasy VII had got popular, is because it was Japanese first in mind. They brought it here to the States. Americans loved it. The West loved it. And Final Fantasy VII had become extremely powerful and popular. And it didn't have the Western audience in mind. Now we're just doing everything just backwards. Japanese studios are doing everything just the opposite way. Now it's no longer keeping the Japanese market in mind. It's now keeping everybody in mind now. And this is why we're starting to get a lot of our favorite IPs like fumbling right now. And it's crazy how now you have the Chinese and you have the Koreans now coming in, stepping in, and doing everything that the Japanese used to do. And they're doing a pretty damn good job at it. So come on, Japan, you really gotta get this shit together. But let's continue. So it says that Hamaguchi, who was promoted from his role as the co-director of Remake to the director of the trilogy's remaining entries, following the original Final Fantasy VII co-creator Tetsuya Nomura's decision to take a more relaxed position in the series production, provided this insight into his home nation's current approach to game development while speaking to the official Sony blog following Rebirth's recent Grand Award win at the 2024 Japan Asia PlayStation Partner Awards. Yes, because when it came to the American Game Awards, I think it only got an award for best music, nothing else. So I can see that this probably ranked in quite a few awards in their homeland, which should tell you something, Japan. So it says, asked by his host as to what factors do you consider when designing a game for a wide global audience, the Square Enix veteran opted in. There are so many elements that go into game development, from the story to every little detail in game presentation. We conduct thorough ethical reviews tailored to different regions. And that's the thing that gets people. When you hear ethical, which means the ethics department and stuff, that really ticks off a lot of people, especially here in the West, because we have this culture war thing going on. When you hear ethics, you hear the ethics department. And this is where things begin to get a little ruffled here when it comes to their decisions based on how they go about developing their games, based on the ethics department, especially when they're trying to cast a net on a global audience. Now, continue. It says, taking the time and resources to ensure our work doesn't become a source of negativity for anyone is essential in today's world. And this is the problem. I think this is what's wrong with Japanese studios nowadays. They're trying to go so out their way not to offend anyone, and they still end up offending everyone. Because like I said before, people love these studios, these Japanese studios, because of being Japanese. We love them because they were Japanese. They offered something, a unique experience compared to Western games or whatever. And that's why people love them the most. The storytelling, the characters, the worlds that they create and everything, people love them. And they didn't hold back as far as fan service when it comes forward, dark topics that you wouldn't think a game would approach, and address. And that's why people love these games. But now they're trying to defend everybody because we now in this sensitive type of world. I'm talking about everywhere now. And it's sad. And I think they need to go back to that, because no matter what they do, somebody's going to be offended by something. Just go back to doing what you're doing. It's almost like they're ashamed of being Japanese because they think being Japanese is going to be offensive, to a lot of people. And I think that's just the wrong direction to go. It says, as Japanese creators, we naturally develop games in Japanese first before translating into other language, he added. During localization, we sometimes adjust phrasing to better fit different cultural contexts. However, this is a delicate process. Players who have a deep respect and strong feelings for the original work often notices even the slightest differences between the Japanese and the translated versions and asks why certain changes were made. Now, I'm glad they're really bringing this up, because we always talk about this, especially when it comes to localization. It's a challenge we constantly navigate in the game creation. To this end, when a later asked if he had advice for fledgling video game designers, Hamaguchi asserted, I strongly encourage them to step out into the world and continue generating new ideas. It's important not to limit your perspective to the values of the market of your own country. Yes, I think it's good to still go out there and get new ideas and stuff like that, and to broaden your horizon. But I think you want to go out there and get those diverse ideas to be able to use that to enhance what you've done from your own origin country, to enhance. You take some little things from it, but you don't adopt some of the behaviors from these other countries and ideologies, and then you put it into, and you baked it and you ingrain it into the ideologies of your country, but take certain things that could improve what you're doing, but still keep the heart and the essence of where you come from as a developer and the nation and the country that you come from. So it says, I quote, maintaining a broad perspective will become even more crucial for creativity in the generations to come, he added. While it's the idea to travel and experience the world firsthand, we are fortunate to live in an era where content and entertainment are easily accessible, of course, because of social media, the internet. There are countless opportunities to broaden your perspective and absorb new ideas. Always set your sights on competing on a global stage, and I hope that together we can contribute to the growth and expansion of Japan's entertainment worldwide. The problem is, when you're trying to cast a net to appease to everybody, this is where you don't get any type of uniqueness. The thing is, what set people apart, when you divide it, this is how you came up with these, Western developers and Eastern developers, because Western developers have a way of designing a game, an ideology of how they go through the development process, and then Eastern developers have a totally different set of process levels and ideas of how they approach game design. This is why we have a separation and stuff, because they come from a different part of the world and how they do things when it comes to the East and the West. Now, when you start to do things to capture a global audience, this is where everything starts to feel the same. Start to feel samey, because you start to take everything, and we've seen it in our games, in modern games nowadays. Everything feels the same. It has the same tropes, the same ideologies that they're trying to incorporate in this game, thinking that they're trying to appease everybody, but they end up pissing off a lot more people. And the thing is, I think we need to get back and go back to, especially when it comes to Eastern developers, go back to just being, who you are as developers from the East. Go back to your Eastern roots and stuff, because that's what makes you unique. You're not trying to make everything feel the same and bring in all this contemporary nonsense into the games. Instead, you bring into that Eastern flavor that makes you unique, that makes you stand out, because it is different, because you from your native country, from your native land, and you develop, from the ideologies from your native country. So that's what they need to go back to. So I continue. It says that for those who haven't yet to experience the latest chapter of Clouds, that's pretty much the end of the article, and it just upsets me at the fact is that Square Enix, most of all, one of my favorite game companies that I just love the most, is going down this path. And I think what's going to help Japan get their footings once again is if they go back, they have to go back to their roots and what people love the most. And the thing is, Final Fantasy is popular because they weren't trying to attract a global audience. Like I said, we're gamers at the end of the day. And since we're gamers, we just want to play a game that respects our time, that is fun as hell to play, worlds that we can just get lost in, and characters that we can fall in love with and resonate with. That's all we care about. That's all we care about. We don't care about y'all trying to adapt to our society and our way of thinking and stuff like that. No, we love the Japanese studios because they were Japanese first and foremost. And I think a lot of Japanese studios got to get back on to that mentality and that process when it comes to development once again, because right now China and South Korea is just destroying right now, and the market is looking completely different. And I said this before, that within the next 5 or maybe 10 years, the gaming market is going to be completely different, and I'm looking forward to see what's going to happen now that we have China and Korea stepping into the mix, and what this is going to do to Japan and Western developers. And like I said, competition is a good thing. It makes developers put out their best. So we want to just wait and see, but it's just a shame to see that Square Enix had this mentality, and hopefully they change that in the near future. But that pretty much wraps up this video. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe button for more gaming content here on this channel. This is Mugen Lord, sign off. I'll see you game fiends later. Peace out.